Welcome to SeerNova Comics Podcast. This is episode 000. Zero? Wait, was it? I can't do that. I gotta get the... We gotta get a sound bite, so we can't get a sound symbol like Gary.
Yeah,
We gotta make our own up.
We
gotta make one up. It'll just be a blink, a really loud blink, because it's an eye. You get it? Anyways, so basically I'm just gonna be interviewing Greg here for all you out there who are curious about how we came to be and how he started this journey and dragged me into it. Alright, so let's start with question number one. Why did you start a comic book company, Greg?
I always liked comics. I never actually read that many. I only bought like Spectacular Spider-Man, and then I was just like,
Spectacular Spider-Man. Just skipped all the good ones, right?
yeah. And then I just started writing one day, and then I was like, oh, I should make a comic. So we're here.
So why'd you start a company?
From needed help, so I was like, oh, I'll just start a company instead of, because actually a lot of people were like, you should actually just start a comic book company because you have all these comics that you have planned, but you have no other like help. So I got help.
Cool. So what motivated you to start an indie comic book company specifically? Why indie comics, and why not just promote your own comics? Why did you want to start promoting other people's comics?
The whole community of like the indie community was kind of like, it's there, but like not that many people know about it, and I want to help bring it out and let people know about it. So we are part of that, and I wanted to help other people do it too. We actually made like a hashtag from that idea, Indie Revolution, and that is actually gonna like not only help indie comics, but it's gonna help like the entire indie community, from like music to even animation and art, obviously.
Very cool, very cool. So let's see. So what got you into writing to begin with, aside from just comic books? Why did you get interested in writing?
7th grade, I had to make a story that I actually released on Amazon. It's a right hook. So
starting off early, right?
I released a book, actually a short story on Amazon recently, but it's from like forever ago. I just like switched it up a bit. It was about a project that was supposed to be 15 pages for the project. It was a narration project for 7th grade English class, and it came out to be 83 pages in a composition notebook.
Very nice. So you filled the composition notebook.
Yeah.
Aren't they 90 pages or something like that?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, okay. So clearly you enjoy writing, but what's something you wish you had a... What skill do you wish that you were better at?
Drawing.
Yeah. That's what I figured. Eh?
Yeah, I can draw.
So, have you like taken any online courses for it? Looked at any books yet?
No.
Just farming it off. Yeah. No, that's cool.
It would save money too. So.
Yeah, you can always get into it. Let's see. Okay, now let's dive into the comic itself. So, what is the main character of the Seer Chronicles over here?
John Benson, which is this dude. And
so why specifically did you choose for him to be a firefighter?
Going through comics in my head, I was like, oh, I don't really think there's a firefighter character that breaks out as like a main hero or anything. So I was actually, there's a whole moral of a story like within that of like, you don't need to be an actual superhero in order to be a hero. You could be like a random citizen or whatever, or even obviously a firefighter is known as like a hero and a cop. But I didn't think like any main character was ever a firefighter, and then they were brought into like being a superhero. So I wanted to do that. And my uncle just retired as a firefighter, so he's in that whole story, and his like best friend is John. So
Very
that's
cool.
why is that.
Let's see. Okay, yeah, so I know this is... I think I know the answer to this one, but when you're writing stories and you're building up characters, what characters do you prefer to build out? The hero or the villain?
Villain.
And why?
It's just more fun, I think. I don't know, maybe it's dark comedy and everything goes on. I just like writing villain over hero. It just seems more fun, I think.
Is it because you can relate more to the villain, or is it because it's a way to like get those types of thoughts out of your head?
Both. Because like I can relate to some of the things, like in actually the first issue, the main bad guy that's building up to be like a main bad guy. He's like he can't like pay bills and stuff, so obviously I think everybody can relate to that at one point.
Very cool. So obviously you've been talking with a lot of other creators. You've been bringing them onto the platform. What type of advice would you have to creators out there who are looking just to get their foot in the door in the comic book industry?
It's not as easy as you think. I thought it was way easier process. Like you just write it, you get an artist, or you are the artist too, and then you make the comic. But there's like so many processes. There's like such a big process in like the entire making a comic. So even if you write the script, you should get it edited, which I can do that. And then once you have it edited, then you gotta find artists. It's not the easiest to always find artists that you can even pay for. First we started off with just trying to get an artist for free, then you get what you paid for, and then they just don't really work out in the end. They had lives or whatever. But when you finally find artists, then you have to like send the script to them, then you have to like work within the artist and like with the artist, and you have to be like, oh well, this is what we mean by this, and then they have to break it down into panels in their head, and then they send it back to you. In a perfect world, they send it back to you like every page, and then you're like, oh, so yeah, that's exactly the direction I want to go. And then you should get a letterer if you can afford it. That I didn't even know was part of the entire process. I thought you can just do that yourself. You can, and you can learn, obviously, but there was actually one that was talking to me right before we released the first one, and he's like, well, the lettering does make the comic better. And I was like, yeah, well, I just don't have the money right now. He's like, oh, okay. But so we had Dillon letter it, and it is good, but like it has a little could it be a little better.
All these low blows.
Yeah. But yeah. So then after it's lettered, actually before it's lettered, you have to color it if you want it colored. So then you have to find a colorist. They're kind of cheap, but just a lot of money and time. So.
Very good, very good. So you were talking earlier about the indie revolution and how you're trying to bring together all these indie creators. What is your goal with that? Like, what do you hope to accomplish by bringing all these creators together?
For us personally, I already have like it pictured that we have an actual physical building, so where people like indie creators can go. We can actually have our own artists and writers or whatever for our stuff, but others can actually work there too, and work on.
So kind of like a co-worker space, but like what is I can't think of the one Troy Innovation or Troy Garage, something like that. But like the whole point
Like
is you
an
want it like
incubator?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not an incubator.
Well, no.
It's a co-working space.
Yeah,
is what
yeah,
it's called. Yeah. But
So-
for creators, where basically they can gather there. Someone could walk in and be like, "I need an artist," and they get to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could be like that. For music, I actually want to have a music, like a producing studio. So a music studio.
Production scene.
Yeah. That's what I meant. And then, so indie musicians can like come and go, and we won't like own any of the rights to the stuff. We would obviously figure out the business side of that, but I actually want like a music studio there. Then there'll be animation at some point too, because I actually plan on doing like shows and movies and stuff, animated and live action. So I have like a whole film production thing too. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's see, where else are we here? Let's see. Okay, so what is something that you've learned since starting this business, and same with the indie revolution? What is it something that you've gained in knowledge or experience from this whole venture?
You have to get a following. So if you don't have a following, don't start a crowdfunding campaign. We first started in August 2017, officially as like an LLC, and I was like, we should do an Indiegogo. No, don't do that. So we did an Indiegogo, and obviously it didn't work, and our goal was $15,000. We originally had it at 30, and we're like, oh, we'll just cut that in half. And so it went from 30 to 15, and then we're like, oh, yeah, we'll get this, and like, no problem. We got like $294 maybe, and that was it. And then we did get the money because it's Indiegogo, the flexible goal, but we did not get what we wanted. And then that basically failed. And then the next year, we did a Kickstarter, and our goal was $10,000, and that was still too high, and it was more of the fact of people were confused on what they were actually funding. They were like, is it a startup, or is it, like, what is the actual idea behind the entire thing? And it was for the indie revolution, like, but it's basically a startup, but they just weren't understanding what we were doing.
So basically just building an audience and clarifying your objective on these crowdfunding platforms would be the main takeaway from those. That's good. So outside of crowdfunding, say you get to meet whatever goals you set for the next few years, where do you see SeerNova Comics in the next 5 years and the next 10 years?
We would have probably... Well, we have that comic.
So let's start with 5 years. So what do you think in 5 years we would have?
A building, like a physical building that you can actually go to. I prefer New York City. I just like New York City. And then in 10 years, probably a building in San Francisco, because he actually wants to move there. And he will at some point. And with the buildings, have all the stuff that I want. So like the music studio and the whole comic creation part and all of that.
So outside of building in 5 years, what do you see? Like, do you see employees? Do you see, a certain number of comics? Do you see certain milestones in what the company will have as assets?
I originally wanted to have 6 comics done this year. That's not going to happen.
I won't say that. It's only, you never know, right?
Oh, yeah, maybe something will happen. But, so, it originally was going to be 6, but with time and money, definitely money, is an issue. That was. We're gonna pull back from doing that, but in 5 years probably want that's 224, right?
What?
2024.
24 what?
5 years. from now.
24 what?
2024. The year.
Oh, 2024.
I was like, what? Math. You're like, what?
Yes,
24?
yes. 5 years from now, it'll be 2024.
Okay, so from like this date or like the beginning of the year?
Doesn't matter.
At least 20 comics out from us, because I am working with other people.
And how many creators do you want on the platform by then? How many do we have now?
Like 30.
So how many would you want in the next 5 years?
Oh, like thousands. There are a lot of creators, and I know we can grab more if we want, like right now, but it's a slow climb. And we're trying to update the website. Yeah, probably like 4,000 maybe.
Sure, seems like a reasonable number.
Like creators. No.
What do you think? 4,000 comics?
Oh no. Yeah, probably 4,000 comics.
How many? So
creators,
we have 30 comics or 30 creators?
No, we have like 30 something creators. So
we're like 300.
Yeah, that sounds
like
better.
A more reasonable number.
4,000 was a lot.
We have 4,000 comics. Wouldn't be bad though. And so from all the stuff that you've set goals for now, the goals that you have achieved, the goals that you've missed, what are some of the failures, and how are you looking to overcome them?
The crowdfunding failure was it was fine that like we failed, because now we know what we're supposed to do.
And so how do you look to overcome those in the future?
Set a smaller goal, and actually what I'm going to do is figure out how other creators do that. I know a lot of comic creators, they actually use Kickstarter in order to fund their comics, because I just can't do that with my job anymore. So I'm gonna learn how to do that, and I actually have a comic that I'm working on right now that's a horror comic that's like a slasher, like an 80s slasher, and I want to fund it through Kickstarter. So I will pay the artist, because it's going to be the same artist that we've been using, but to get money back and everything and print it, I want to use like Kickstarter. So we'll have like a smaller goal, and then for our other comics we're going to have like a smaller goal, and then we'll just have enough money that we'll need to print it, which we use like Ready Comics.
Shout out.
Drop shipping. And yeah, so just like a smaller goal, and like actually like an actual focused, like, I can't even think of the word that I'm trying to think of. Just like a focus on like what the campaign is for.
Yeah,
so,
being more specific with what
instead of like the last
to.
one that we did, people are like, well, what is this for? So we'll actually have it for whatever comic it is, and like what we're gonna do with the money.
Cool. Awesome. Well, definitely it was very informative, I'm sure, for anyone who's been looking to learn more about SeerNova Comics. Look forward to more podcasts in the future, and have a good one.